Shalom Chaverim, Shalom Shalom, welcome back. In our last session on Shavuot, we spoke about the idea that we have dairy on Shavuot. One of the reasons we have dairy or plant-based products on Shavuot is that the laws of Kashruth were just given and the Jewish people didn't have time to prepare meat properly and to do the things that are necessary for keeping kosher in the home. While there are many laws and subsets of laws regarding Kashruth, regarding keeping kosher, I thought I'd give you a practical application of how to do kosher in this session. So let's begin. So what is kosher? First of all, kosher literally means fit for use. But what things are kosher? Anything that grows from the ground, grains, vegetables, fruits, all of these things are kosher. Nothing has to be done to them. Nothing has to be, no blessing has to be made. Nothing happens to them that can make them kosher. They are kosher by default, if you would. It's only when we start processing these things that supervision has to be done to ensure that they maintain their kashrut, maintain their kosher characteristics. So what does that mean? So if something that is plant-based, vegetables, fruits, grains, if any of them come in contact with anything that might be unkosher, for instance, pork products or animals that haven't been slaughtered and processed in a kosher manner, then those things then become unusable in a kosher home. But in and of themselves, if you go out and pick a radish out of the garden, or a tomato, or an eggplant, or lettuce, whatever it is by nature kosher. Now we also have to check to make sure there are no bugs in our food. That's a different topic altogether, but we have to just ensure that those things don't have bugs. We rinse them out. We make sure that anything that came in contact with the bugs is washed and cleaned. So that's essentially the simplest thing. Grains, vegetables, and fruits are kosher. Nothing has to be done. It's only when we start getting into animal quality foods that things become a little more challenging for us. So first off, kosher animals must have several stomachs and must have a split hoof. What I mean by that is if you see an animal that ruminates, ones that keeps chewing and chewing and chewing and chewing, that's one sign. The other is they must have a completely split hoof. So cows, goats, sheep, deer, buffalo, a bison, even a giraffe is kosher, although they're too cute to eat. But it can be it is a kosher animal. We just wouldn't want to eat it, quite frankly. So in order to maintain the status of it being kosher, an animal must be slaughtered in a very humane way. So first off, it's cut on the carotid artery so that it will painlessly bleed to death, essentially. And the blood must be removed. Certain organs have to be removed and separated and checked to see if the animal is healthy. Once that's done, and it's supervised by an authority, someone who is trained in the laws of kosher slaughter, then that animal is then, the meat is then salted and soaked to remove any blood, and then it is ready for use in a kosher home. And again, there are many supervising authorities. Some are more reliable than others, but as long as the meat is certified kosher, meaning that it has been supervised, that it's been handled, slaughtered, and processed in a kosher way, then the animal and the meat coming from it is kosher. So the next is fowl, birds. Specific birds can be used: chicken, duck, turkey, some geese are kosher. And once they're killed and processed in a kosher manner, then they are fit for use. Again, that word kosher meaning fit for use. They're fit for use in a kosher home. So one problem arises is that fowl in the Torah was never deemed as being meat. So how did a chicken become a cow? And so what happened is that in our tradition, perception is reality. And if something is perceived as meat, it then becomes meat. And so fowl is now considered meat. It is warm-blooded, so therefore it fits that category. But certainly it is not a terrestrial animal, a mammal, and therefore doesn't fit the same. Of course, a chicken does not have a split hoof. It has no hooves at all. So a chicken, again, being processed properly, being slaughtered properly, and the blood removed, and therefore fowl becomes kosher in that way. Next is fish. So fish has to have two qualities. They have to have fins and scales. And not the kind of scales that are on an eel, those little thin scales, but the rough scales that you see on most fish. So being that it has to have fins and scales, therefore shellfish are no longer kosher. Never were, never have been, never will be. They don't have fins and scales. They are crustaceans. They have no scales at all. Some of them have fin-like structures, but so therefore crustaceans are not kosher. Sorry, shrimp lo mein is out. So those are the three areas of animal quality food. Now there is some insects that are kosher, but who wants to eat them when you have so much other stuff that you can eat? But grasshoppers, locusts, and certain insects that are similar do have a kosher quality to them. Notice that I never said that the rabbi comes in and blesses the food. A blessing from a rabbi over a pig does not make it kosher. Okay? So nowhere in this process, the only time a rabbi is involved is to oversee the process to make sure that it follows the rigors of Jewish law. So in the home, how this plays out is also very simple. Dairy and meat are not to come in contact with each other. Sorry, cheeseburgers are out. So as long as these two don't come in contact, then the home is kosher. Meaning you could have, you need to have kosher dishes that are dairy and separate ones for meat. There's also a third category called pareve, and that's where plant-based foods come into contact. There's only one other item that would be on your kitchen shelf that might be from an animal, but it is kosher, and that's honey. Honey does need to be supervised, but it's not plant-based. It comes from a bee. So honey is one of the only, it is the only product that comes from an animal that doesn't need to be from a kosher animal. All other things, milk has to come from a kosher animal. Again, goat, sheep, beef, bison, anything like that. So deer. So as long as it comes from a kosher animal, the dairy that comes from that animal is kosher and must be kept separate, though, from the meat items. So this is a, shall we say, a quick review, a quick overview of Kashruth and how it's practically applied in our homes. I hope this has been helpful, and we'll see you next time. Be well.